Today's riddle is actually today's show. What I mean is that I have a riddle for you today, and I'll give you just a few moments to answer it. But then the answer to that riddle is my full show today. Oh, I have a treat for you today. And not only that, a very valuable insight into this Cyrus Jirongo mystery. It is a real eye-opener. I believe it is what I would call a aha moment. Also on my show today is all about the rising star of a man called Kalonzo wa Musyoka, because it would appear that this man, out of all the candidates, possible prospective presidential candidates in the opposition, it appears that Kalonzo Musyoka finds himself at the right place at the right time in history when he can get all the support. What I mean is that many opposition figures, many powerful opposition people, na watu ambao wako na votes, have got a very good reason to support Kalonzo Musyoka. I will also cover that, because it is not just new hair. There is a major problem in the calculations there, okay? And it has to do with Murima votes. Stay with me and find out. But first, I have to give you the riddle. Imagine a situation where you felt that your life was threatened because of the information you have. Your enemies would like to unlive you because of what you know. Okay? What would you do? Yeah, and it's not writing a book. What would you do in this day and age to ensure that even if they unlive you, all the information is out there in bits and pieces, but it is out there. Now I've given you very many clues, so you should have no problem with that. Yeah, and so twende kazi. Now let me give you more time to solve the riddle by starting with the Kalonzo Musyoka manenos. Now it would appear that Rigathi Gachagua, who, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, has got massive support from Murima people right across the nation. It would appear that Gachagua has decided to support Kalonzo Musyoka for the presidency of the Republic of Kenya. And not only Rigathi Gachagua, other major Luhya leaders are also leaning in the same direction. And not only that, the coalition that is being put together has reserved the position of deputy president for somebody from the Mulembe nation, which also means that ticket will have support from the Mulembe nation. And remember, the passing on of Cyrus Jirongo seems to have done something that has proved to be elusive for decades. And what is that? It has united the Luhyas. It has united the Mulembe nation. So on paper, Kalonzo Musyoka is through. Kalonzo Musyoka amefika tayari. It is just a matter of time. On paper, note that. Okay? Now, I have just one problem with this arrangement, okay? Because there are those people who would like to fire barbs at Gachagua, and they're doing it in the following way. They are saying that what Gachagua is doing is preparing his own path by first ensuring the presidency of Kalonzo Musyoka, by supporting him, so that in return he will have a lot of goodwill, not only from the Kamba nation, but he will have a lot of goodwill from all Kenyans, for a very simple reason. The hatred, the venom towards the current executive and the UDA party is so serious that whichever candidate manages to remove this particular administration is going to be a hero in the eyes of Kenyans. And so Gachagua has done his calculations according to his critics, and is doing this thing so that he appears as one of the major heroes, because he's the one who made the presidency possible. He's the one who made it possible for Kasongo to go home. Yeah? So that these people will all owe him a major political favor, which will quickly cash in the next presidential elections after that. But back to the problem I have. There is just one nagging problem. I'm not sure if you're aware that Murima voters, the House of Mumbi voters, are very different from any other voters in the country. Do you know why? And we have a lot of proof, a lot of evidence from the way Murima has voted in the past, to prove beyond any doubt that what I'm saying is true. The problem with Murima voters, they do not follow the instructions of anybody to vote. They don't. They don't follow the instructions of their leaders. They don't. They make up their minds on their own. I don't know how. Okay, I'm not sure how. But they make up their minds on their own, and they all vote like one person. Now, maybe some of you don't believe me. Let me give you an example from 1992. In 1992, we were all sure that Mwai Kibaki was going to do very well in those elections. After all, he was the senior most politician from Murima. But what happened? His junior by very many years, a man called Kenneth Stanley Njindo Matiba, came from nowhere and swept all the Murima votes. To this day, I don't think there's any analyst who can completely explain what happened in 1992. But then, it just confirms what I'm trying to say. Murima people do not take instructions from anybody. And by the way, that includes this man they all love so much, called Rigiji. Of course, it is very possible that Murima people will sit down and decide to do exactly what Rigiji is suggesting. But then it will be their own decision. It is not guaranteed. Yeah? You cannot guarantee, like in any other region in the country, where you know that once the kingpin has said left, the whole community will go left. Murima is not like that. Maybe I should give you just one more example of how unpredictable Murima is. 2002, when we were removing Moi, we had two presidential candidates from Mount Kenya. And Moi, this is the most serious blunder he made in his entire political career. Yeah? But he assumed that because Uhuru Kenyatta was his candidate, and Uhuru Kenyatta was from Kiambu, he would sweep most of the Mount Kenya region votes. Why? Because traditionally, the community has tended to follow, yeah, to copy, or to go with what Kiambu has decided. Okay? But then what happened? Contrary to what many experienced, skilled analysts believed, including my political lecturer, the whole of the Mount Kenya region, most of it, decided it was Kibaki. Now, this one was very strange because all through the years, Mount Kenya did not like Kibaki. They believed he was a coward. In fact, his nickname in Kikuyu was General Coward. And of course it is known, voters do not like cowards. They like brave people. And so many people are sure Kibaki was not going to receive the Mount Kenya vote. In fact, many had predicted the election results, the presidential election results, were going to be too close to call. But what happened? At the very last minute, Murima decided. Nobody knows where they met to decide. Nobody knows how the word got round. We may have an idea or two, but we don't know for sure. They just decided to put all their votes in the basket of Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki. Bottom line, the opposition can make all their best plans. Rigathi Gachagua can finalize his Mount Kenya vote. But trust me, at the end of the day, it is the people themselves who will decide, whether to go with what Rigathi Gachagua is telling them, or whether to go with somebody completely different. Okay? That is my problem with that plan. Actually, I also have another problem with this Kalonzo Musyoka plan. Okay? You know, in politics, you don't show your hand too early. That is a serious blunder, because what you're doing is that you're giving your opponents something to fight. You're giving your opponents your whole game plan so that they have all the time to sit down and see how to fight it politically. And you know, in politics, the only rule is thou shalt not be caught. So you can be sure there'll be all kinds of dirty tricks applied, okay, to ensure that this plan, which looks solid, will not work. It will be sabotaged somehow. Okay? That is my other problem with this plan. In my opinion, it is way too early to show you, dear, your opponents, and you know how dirty they play. It is way too early to show them what you're thinking and what you're going to do. But that's my take. I don't know what your opinion is. I'll be happy to hear what it is in the comments area below. Now, the answer to that riddle, and actually the rest of my show. Now, if you've been following my videos, you'll already know there's something which has really puzzled me that the late Cyrus Jirongo did. You remember I said he suddenly decided to be a podcaster, a content creator, and he created a lot of content online, appeared on countless interview shows on TV, and the result is he delivered tons of information, a lot of information on one character, William Samoei Ruto. Actually, think about it. All the sensitive information we have on Ruto, you think of anything that has been said crazy about Ruto, and you'll discover who told us, who exposed this information. It will always lead back to one name and one name alone: Cyrus Jirongo. Not only that, on countless occasions, Cyrus Jirongo came out and told us that his life is in danger. Isn't that true? And he told us exactly where the danger was coming from. Isn't that true? Now, the answer to the riddle is this. If you have information that you suspect you may lose your life because of that information, then a very smart way of going about things, very straightforward, very simple, very smart, is to release as much information as possible and ensure that it is available online. Knowing very well that Kenyans worship the dead, knowing very well that in case anything happens to you, people will go back and dig out that information and broadcast it and rebroadcast it and make it viral and bring out the information so that it proves to be very damaging to the person who the information is about. In my opinion, ingenious. Because you don't have to worry about somebody not following instructions when you're no longer on this world of the living. You've already set everything. Everything is already there. It is just waiting that in case something happens to you, that information will come out. Na fujo. Now, isn't that exactly what has happened? Think about it. Isn't that exactly what has happened? And guess what? This information coming out the way it has is what has made Kenyans so suspicious that they do not want to believe anything about the passing on of Jerongo. They don't want to believe anything at face value. Kenyans are interrogating this thing like Kenyans were the DCI itself. Hey, Wakenya bwana, what are you smoking? Huh? I firmly believe that what I am saying here is the absolute truth. This is exactly what Jerongo planned. Because seriously, the man has never been a journalist. The man has never been interested in the media as a profession. This guy was a wheeler dealer, an entrepreneur. That's the truth. Okay, government contracts here and there, big deals here and there. That's what Cyrus Jirongo was all about. But then suddenly, out of nowhere, and this really puzzled me for a long time, until just yesterday when it hit me, and it hit me so hard that I had to sit down. Suddenly, now I believe I can answer that mystery. Why suddenly the man just decided, I'm going to be a content creator. And he created a lot of content. With Martha Karua, with Babu Wino, with a lot of other politicians. The camera went on, and the audio was active, and they talked. And he released information. And he released information. And he released information. To what end? One would have wondered. But now, we know, don't we? Because the truth is, the way this Jerongo Maneno is developing, there are new shocks every day. Because, for instance, this candidate for MP in Malava, this man called Panyako, has come out and said, he has said that Jerongo was killed. And the people who killed Jerongo are the same people who tried to kill him. Now, can anybody make it clearer than that? And remember, this is a politician with an ear to the ground. I'm sure he has information. So he has come out very publicly and spelt it out for us. For anybody who was doubting, or for anybody who got lost in the Kizungu Mingi. He has spoken it clearly. The people who killed Jerongo, and he was killed, that's what he's telling us, are the same people who tried to kill him. Folks, this Jerongo Manenos is going to be buried on the 30th of December. The second last day of this year. This Jerongo Manenos is proving to be deadly to the Ruto administration. Because all fingers are firmly pointed at them. At the government for the passing on of Jerongo. People don't have the details. People don't know what happened. Okay? But I think it is very clear. The official story doesn't make sense. It doesn't. And in this case, and I've said this before, it is impossible to create another story that will make sense. You know what happens in this life when one is not telling the truth is that you can talk and talk and talk yourself into a corner where you cannot get out. Okay? You've told that half-truth, you've told that lie, you've told that lie, you've created that story. Now you're at that corner. Now, is it possible for you to create another story magically that will remove you from that corner, and then everybody will suddenly believe you and say, yeah, all that makes sense? Is that possible? That is exactly what I mean when I say that it is now impossible for the government to get itself out of the hole they dug themselves. Okay? Right. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart, friends of Kumekucha, supporters of Kumekucha, for what you have done in this season of giving to Kumekucha Chris. You know, times are very hard. Kenyans are suffering. And of course it is reflected in the response. But what has really touched me is the effort that has been made by many of you. Asanteni sana, and God bless you, and replenish your storehouse, from whence you fetched your gift 100-fold. Amen. Now our latest offer, based on this season of giving, is about to come to a close. Yeah, you can see details on the screens right now. If your gift is at least Kenya shillings 2,500, you're going to get something very amazing. Yeah, and that is the golden key, permanent golden key to everything Kumekucha, past, present, and future. Everything, including ebooks. Okay? Just use the details you see on the screens right now and rush and do this before the offer comes to an end. Now immediately receive the golden key. You will immediately receive a lot of sensitive information, including information very closely linked to what we've been discussing on our video today. So please move with speed to avoid disappointment. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.